Welcome to another episode of Wholehearted Healing with Jo. My name is Johanna, Jo, your host. We are going to be talking about sleep today. And I apologize because my voice has been a little bit funky, so is my throat. So hopefully it doesn't sound too weird, and if I have to clear my throat or something, that doesn't disrupt this whole thing, but we'll see. Also, I have the windows open, so if you hear any noises, sounds, that sort of thing, that is probably why as well. But we're going to get into sleep, talking about sleep. Sleep is super important for our health and our wellness, and it's one of the things that we can really work towards controlling in order to see positive change in our health. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about what I commonly see in my practice and when I'm working with my clients. It is a common question, that I ask people in my clinical setting of just like, what is your sleep like? What does it look like? How good or bad is it? And then as well, it's something that I go over a little bit more in depth in my Mindful Woman program as well, which is my 12-week coaching program. So we're going to get into, like I said, why it's important. So first, I'm going to start off with what I commonly see. And so what I commonly see in my practice is that people don't necessarily think that their sleep habits are bad or affecting them that much. And so it's funny because I'll sometimes ask people, and I think I've mentioned this actually on a previous podcast, but I'll sometimes mention to people like, what is your sleep patterns like? Do you feel like your sleep is normal? How's your sleep? Whatever. And they say it's good. And when I kind of prompt them further to be like, okay, what does it look like? What, how many hours of sleep do you get? Do you wake up at all at night? Like those sorts of things. People are, oh yeah, I wake up and I have a hard time falling asleep and blah, blah, blah. But then they sit there and said that their sleep was good, right? So it's kind of a funny thing. Sleep is super important just from a recovery and a healing perspective. It obviously, it recharges us, right? Like there's a reason, obviously, we have to sleep every day. And so I'm sure you've noticed at some point in your life where, if you don't get enough sleep or your sleep is disrupted somehow, that you just feel super lethargic, you feel grumpy, you're tired, maybe you're sore and you're achy, maybe you get headaches or your tolerance is low for things, right? And those are kind of more short-term effects, but long-term it can have, a huge effect on just our stress levels, how well our body's functioning, and how well we are regulating even our nervous system. And so sleep, like I said, is super, super important, and not everybody realizes like what is maybe going on with their sleep and like what it's really even trying to tell them. So when we're sleeping, we're meant to be in what's called the parasympathetic nervous system, so which is your rest and digest nervous system. We should be able to relax. Obviously, there's also like phases of our sleep, right? REM sleep, that sort of thing, deep sleep. I'm not going to get into that today, but the biggest component of rest and sleep is that we should be able to rest during it, right? We should be able to sleep. We should be able to sleep throughout the entire night. And for women, especially, we're meant to actually have a little bit more sleep than men. And you may also find that during certain times of your cycle, you need more or less sleep as well. And so typically kind of that range is like 7 to 9 hours. And again, you might kind of fluctuate on the higher and the lower depending on what part of your cycle you're in. And so, like I said, we should be able to rest. Waking up in the middle of the night to do any sort of thing is not normal. So sometimes people think that like waking up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night is normal. It is not. We should be able to kind of sleep throughout the entire night. And if you are waking up having to go to the bathroom, or just, you're disrupted, or you seem to just all of a sudden wake up and you go back to sleep, like those little things can be cues as to like what are some maybe other things that are happening. And it's little signs and little signs that are going on in your body that maybe people don't pay attention to in the beginning. So this is kind of like beginning stage things that we can start to notice that are influencing us and maybe, kind of giving us some insight to be like, oh, you know what, like this isn't normal. I never used to do this. I should really work on this and change this. So we're going to go through sleep strategies, things that you can incorporate, easy things that you can do on your own without supplements and tools and, things that you have to buy, right? These are all just like very basic things that you can do. So waking up in the night is not normal. One of the things that I look at is what's called the organ clock, which is actually from traditional Chinese medicine. And so certain times of the night, really it's like a whole day that the clock looks at, but when I'm looking at sleep, there's certain times of the night that people typically will wake up at, and that can be related to a certain organ, which then can tell you a little bit more about people's health. And it's really fascinating when it lines up with like a certain organ, and then they have already discussed that they have, certain conditions or things going on, in their body, that you're like, oh, those two things correlate. So that does actually make sense. One of them is between the hours of 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. If you wake up in between that time, that is would be connected to your liver. And so what I tell people is not like, this isn't just like waking up one time at that point of the night. This is like every night you seem to wake up, or at least, most nights you're waking up between the hours. And some people are like between those hours, they always wake up, or they're very specifically like 2:15 and they will find that they, when they check the clock, that's the time they see. So again, information, right? So that can tell you maybe there's something going on with your liver, maybe there's like some blood sugar stuff, hormones, right? Especially with women is a huge one. If you've got like fatty liver, or you've got like any sort of hormonal things going on, you might find like the liver could be affected in that way, right? Just because those conditions obviously would influence the liver, and the liver plays a huge role into just detoxification, which is part of what we're doing when we're sleeping as well. Stress and sleep is another one, because I find that people who kind of wake up really, really early and have a hard time falling back asleep, so anywhere from, 2 a.m. on into the morning, if you wake up really early and you're like, oh, I can't go back to sleep, like it's 4 in the morning, it's 5 in the morning, and you have a really hard time where you almost just have to get out of bed, that can sometimes be like a cortisol thing. And so our stress levels, again, hormones, right? All of that can play a part in the times that we're waking up, and how we're feeling when we wake up, and what kind of, again, looking at patterns basically, right? So let's talk a little bit about things that you can do for your sleep, because like I said, sleep is important for healing. It's important for just recharging our body, our energy levels, our digestion, just like good mental health, good emotional health, right? Just being able to tolerate and cope, right, with life in that way. And so when things disrupt it, obviously that is not supportive for us, especially long-term, over time, right? So we're going to take a look at basically like sleep routines. So how can you improve your sleep, basically, right? And so I've actually changed this a lot in my life. And it's funny because now I feel like I'm so sensitive to like any sort of disruption to my sleep, in the sense of like, staying out late at night. I'm like, I'm going to be so tired like the next day, right? So it's kind of funny when you start to pay attention to this, because you start to notice little things. And I'm just going to take a drink of water here for a minute. Okay. So the first thing that you want to look at when trying to improve your sleep is having a consistent sleep schedule, right? So, always go. For me, I'm like, I love to read. So it's actually one of the things that I do to kind of wind me down before bed, as I read like a novel. And I typically, like 9 o'clock rolls around and I'm like, I gotta get ready for bed. So I start to kind of get ready. 9:30, I'm usually sitting in bed with my book. And then I'm usually like lights out sleeping by like 10:15, 10:30 is kind of usually, depends on how good the book is and how much activity, like an energy I feel like I have, because sometimes I might have to spend a little bit more time reading. So having a consistent sleep schedule, this is like not only the time you like get into bed and fall asleep, but also wake up in the morning, right? And so the more kind of habitual you can be with that, the better you're going to feel. And if you want to start changing, because we should be asleep by 11 o'clock. So if you want to start, if you're a late sleeper, like a nighthawk kind of, you stay up late. If you want to start changing your sleep habits, what you can do is just, I would say incrementally, like by 15 minutes, move your falling asleep time back, right, over time, rather than trying to, like, you usually go to bed at 1 a.m. and you're trying to go to bed at 10. Like, that's going to feel really challenging and you're going to be like, I'm so wide awake, right? So just slowly, incrementally wind it back is, I find, easier than just trying to do it like hours at a time. So sleep schedule is one thing. Also, sleeping in a cool, dark, quiet room or environment is going to be the most supportive, so that we're not stimulated, obviously, by noises and sounds and lights. And as well, like, the coolness is more comfortable for our body as well, typically, versus like heat, right? And then also avoiding naps in the afternoon, especially long naps. It's one thing if you're going to be like 20 minutes or so, but long naps in the afternoon can potentially keep you up later at night, right? Because you feel like you've gotten some aspect of sleep. So sleep schedule is one thing, right? And how we sleep in our room and what our room feels like in the environment that we create. Now, the next one is a relaxing bedtime routine. So this could be like reading or having a warm bath, or maybe incorporating some relaxation tools, right? So this also comes into like managing your stress. Obviously, you're relaxing, so you're trying to down-regulate, right? And you want to basically have you want to feel calm, like emotionally, but also mentally. And so things that kind of help support you calming your body and soothing your body, but as well, tasks and tools like meditation, breathwork, or journaling can be really supportive for the mind. I actually find, again, reading really good for the mind, because I'm so invested into the story that I can't really think about all the things that happened in my day. So it allows me to just take a break from that. So I find reading is also very calming for the mind and my stress levels before I go to sleep. The next one is minimizing or eliminating screen time at least an hour before bedtime. So screens stimulate our the blue light specifically, right? So you could use blue light glasses if you want, but screen time stimulates our nervous system. It kind of ramps us up. Phones are really bad because when you are scrolling, so if you get caught in a reel hole before bed, being caught and scrolling, it locks our eyes onto the screen, and that locking of our eyes on the screen actually puts us into fight or flight, even if we don't feel it. So it is not super beneficial from that perspective, but also just the screen, blue light. Now that phones and stuff now do have where you can like shut the blue light off and that sort of thing. So you can use those types of tools, again, blue light glasses, that sort of thing, if you need to be on screens late at night. But yeah, try to give your eyes a bit of a break. And again, at least an hour before you fall asleep is best, so that you, again, kind of that like winding down. Now, the next one is your diet, hydration, caffeine, alcohol. So obviously we want to minimize caffeine and alcohol, especially before bed. Really for caffeine, it should be avoided really in the afternoon and the evening, just because of how long it stays in your system and the effect that it has. Alcohol, alcohol's not great either. They're like, caffeine's a stimulant, alcohol's a depressant, right? So it's obviously going to change your state, and so that's going to disrupt your sleep. If you've ever been out having a night drinking, you know what I mean, or a late coffee or something like that. And so just being mindful, and then on top of that as well, just making sure our diet and our hydration is good and well-rounded, so that we are eating healthy and supporting our body, just in that regard as well. The other thing too is, because people so again, you could be waking up in the middle of the night because there's something, more specifically going on. But some people just drink to they're like, oh, I had a tea before I went to bed. And it's like, okay, well, obviously you're gonna have to wake up and go pee. So don't drink liquids typically like an hour or so before bed, so that you aren't waking up and having to go to the washroom, right? So just, again, not trying to add that more disruption to your sleep. So again, just managing that, monitoring that. Usually if you're like an hour or so, you'll still end up going to the bathroom before you go to bed. So you usually are kind of in the clear that way, but it's just something I want to bring up when we're talking about, consuming and drinking things in our diet and stuff. Especially if you're someone who likes to have like a calming tea or something before bed. And then exposure to natural light throughout the day. So circadian rhythm, I don't know if you guys have heard this, but so your circadian rhythm is like your body's internal clock of like sleep and wake and all that kind of stuff. So when you are exposed to natural light, and this has been a big thing like on Instagram and socials and stuff, of like being exposed to, the outside natural light in the morning, but you can actually do the same at night, which is kind of cool. So you can actually also view the sunset. So viewing the sunset lets your body know it's time to wind down. And so it tells you it's like nighttime and sleep is coming and that sort of thing. So having exposure to the natural light throughout your day is obviously helpful, but also at night you can be out around. It's easier in the summer and stuff, obviously, but you can be out and around the sunset, and that will also kind of indicate to your body that like, okay, it's time to wind down. It's time to go to sleep. So that's kind of an interesting one that people don't always maybe know of, that can be supportive in your sleep schedules as well. So that is kind of basically sleep in a nutshell. Obviously not getting into like the rhythms and stuff of, the REM sleep and all that other kind of stuff. But basically, if you're at least sleeping through the night, which most people are not, and you're getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep, you're well ahead of other people. And I think that a lot of people who are like, oh no, I can function on like 5-6 hours of sleep, you're not functioning on the sleep, you're functioning on cortisol. So, and again, like short term, you might be able to do that, but long term, it's going to have a lot of negative effects and negative repercussions. So it's just, again, being kind of proactive and trying to balance things out, and, try to get sleep when you can get sleep. If you're in a period of time when you can't have normal cycles, I mean, obviously there's, if you're a parent or if you, have, again, young children or just had babies and that sort of thing, that disrupts things. Maybe you're in school. There could be a lot of reasons why your sleep is disrupted, but those things are typically short term, not lasting as long. And so if you can just try to get sleep where you can and rest where you can during those moments, that'll be important. And, you can kind of catch up later. But if you are just overworking and burdening yourself and just are all of a sudden just realizing like you don't sleep well at all, and you don't really have a reason for being up in the morning for no reason, in the sense of like, 2-3 in the morning, whatever, then it might be time to look at your sleep patterns and look at the things that are contributing to that sleep being disrupted throughout the night, because it's usually your sleep being disrupted at night is a sign that your lifestyle during the day is not supportive. There's something that's going on, right? Unless, like I said, you have something like you've had a baby, right? And so you're obviously going to be up at night. So that is the biggest thing with sleep. Again, I deal with this with my clients in the clinic, and obviously the treatments that I provide with my osteopathic care are supportive in relaxing the body as well, so that I find people can have better sleeps just with the treatment and stuff. Most people actually feel really tired after my treatments. And then as well, this is a big component to what I work through with women in my Mindful Woman program, my 12-week coaching program. It's only a one component. We do go through the nervous system and emotions and physical aches and pains and things that you're dealing with that way as well. But again, like sleep is such a big foundational component that if you're not getting this right, then it's like, we got to get the foundational basics covered before we can move into bigger things and kind of get that, the big picture looked at. So that is pretty much what I got. So I'm going to enjoy the weather today and rest my voice. And yeah, I'm gonna maybe have a nice cool drink, but hopefully this was supportive for you. Hopefully this was helpful for you. If you guys want to book a osteopathic treatment with me, if you're in the area, or if you want to know more information or sign up for the Mindful Woman program, shoot me a message on Instagram. The links for those are down below as well. On June 10th, I'm hosting an event with Natalie. We are doing a women's, it's called Body, Breath, and Balance, and it's basically an event for women in stress, who are dealing with stress, who are dealing with physical symptoms, ailments, right? Things that they just don't feel 100%, right? It's a great evening to kind of unwind and decompress, definitely. And so basically we're going to be kind of teaching you and guiding you about the nervous system, and working through gentle movement and practices like breath work and the vagus nerve and that sort of thing during our 1.5 to 2 hours together. And then you guys are going to get a toolkit that, gives you daily practices, things that you can do, that you can kind of go home with to implement things on your own. And it kind of gives you a recap of everything that we went through. So if you're interested in that, again, it's happening June 10th. It's a Monday, from 6:30 to 8:30, and it's going to be up in Conestoga, so not obviously far from Waterloo, just on the outside of Waterloo there. So if you're interested in that, I'll have the link down below, but you can also shoot me a message. It's $65 for the evening, and again, we go through an 1.5 to 2 hours of a little bit of education, but a lot of movement and breath work, and you really kind of like feeling and reconnecting into your body. And then you'll get the toolkit afterwards. So again, that's June 10th at 6:30. So, all right, that is what I've got for today. My voice is now starting to kind of give out on me. So with that being said, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for listening, as always. And I will see you in the next podcast episode. Bye.